They want to see more of the founder though, and they're missing that component. And so this was a playful way of showing off that we're the jockey instead of just the horse behavior.
Pigeon messaging?
Pigeon messaging.
Okay.
He killed it. We were all in stitches laughing.
It's just crazy how things fall together sometimes. One of the things I've been looking into is like risk tolerance and like what makes someone feel like it's okay to do something or not.
It's okay to not have something perfect today. We know that your product will be 100% different tomorrow after certain ideas or thoughts come into play, right?
Hey everybody, and welcome to Startup Anthology. I'm your host, Jeremy Willis, and I have an interesting friend with me today who reached out to me on Instagram after I was at the startup crawl here in Austin, and I thought it was spam. But this is my friend, Kent Richeson, and he is an entrepreneur and founder of ShitPitch. He has an eclectic background, going from a general manager at a bakery, chief range officer at a gun range, to talk show host, the private equity VC area. Now, I think you're a two-time founder, is that right? ShitPitch is the most recent endeavor. Kent, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. And yeah, it's a fun little history of just about everything and figuring out what's exciting and what's not. So that's life, isn't it?
It is. So tell me about ShitPitch a little bit, because what I've read and what I've seen, I was actually going to try to go to the event here in Austin, but scheduling conflict couldn't let me go. But just tell me what it is and why you have a passion for it.
It's for the founders to be recognized in a little bit different way. So a lot of the times investors go to pitch events or are looking at pitch decks and see the same old, or they're just looking at the business behavior and trying to get a little bit of, information that's so scripted or presented in such a way. They want to see more of the founder though, and they're missing that component. And so this was a really playful way of showing off that more of the jockey instead of just the horse behavior, more the founder relationship between what they're creating and how they're creating it and what they can do, what they're doing. So that's really where this all stemmed from and the intent behind it.
How did you get the idea? What did you see was the problem that you were like, oh, let me show a more rounded founder to investors?
Have you been to a pitch event before, a startup pitch event?
Not a true pitch event.
They're interesting. They're great for driving a direct pitch deck of like, okay, hey, we're going to have this founder get up on stage and literally just regurgitate the information on a pitch deck, right? Fantastic. For that direct reason, it's a win. But you really don't get an understanding of who the individual is when they're on stage and pitching, other than maybe some nuances of how they interacted or why they did it, X, Y, and Z in the product side. You're not really getting a flavor of the individual. And so I got tired of going to these same old stuffy air kind of
everyone
rooms.
doing this. Yeah.
I love Shark Tank, but come on now, let's be human a little bit.
Right.
I got together with a few investors and said, let's play around with this idea. Let's just have some fun and see what happens. I said, you bring some founders, I'll bring some founders, and let's meet up and see what happens. Sure enough, it was a blast. We had some amazing talent come in the room, willing and thoughtful on how we could shape something into A, entertainment, but really B, looking at that founder relationship and how it works.
Okay. Well, the interesting thing is, first I thought it was spam when you hit me up on Instagram. You get a lot of messages through Instagram. And then as I started reading more, it's the story of the founder, right? It's their anthology, if you will. And so that kind of intrigued me a little bit, because that's what Startup Anthology is, right? It's trying to tell the story of not just the founders or the company, but the employees that work for those companies. So I thought it was kind of a good connection. So
I mean, we're all human and just trying to figure out what it is that works in life and what doesn't work. Even the employees and those early on hires are so critical and reflective of the founder behavior. That's where a lot of investors are going, okay, what kind of founder am I really hiring and bringing into my fold and relationships that I can add value to, as well as know that this is going to progress in a positive direction culturally, economically, etc. How does this really shape in a way that's going to be beneficial for a lot of people instead of just your own behavior, right?
Yeah, it's creating that team that helps the investors to ensure they execute well on their investment, and so that they're not just throwing money away. It gives them a little bit more due diligence, I guess.
Everybody's got their boss, right? And investors have their LPs, right? They're limited partners that are expecting high results, and they've got to deliver. And so that's where that relationship comes in.
How did you start? I mean, that was kind of just the background of like getting going with ShitPitch, but how did, once you got going and, developed the team and start bringing everyone together, how'd that go? What was the challenges in those early stages getting the company going?
Good question. So much like a startup, it starts with data. Yes, I pushed an initiative on an MVP probably a little too soon in the sense of, hey, let's go just have an experiment and see what's going on and run with it.
Okay.
But at the same moment, it also needed the validation of, could this legitimately work, or at least some aspect of it. When I was working with the investors early on, it was literally like a small pool of about 20 investors, and just having nice conversations of, hey, what if this was the situation? Or how would you work if this would be on stage? Would that be beneficial? And working through that process, a lot of the conversation was, Kent, I see pitch decks every day. I don't want to see another pitch deck, or I don't want to have to watch or go to another pitch event where I could have just read their pitch deck. And then it got to the point of going, okay, well, what is it that you actually know is going to be game changer for you? And they all were unanimous. Founder. I got to see more of the founder. I don't want to have to go to a lunch. I don't want to have to set up another meeting because I don't know the founder well enough yet that would even value something. So this is where the seeds of the idea started of going, okay, what if we did like kind of like a 2-for-1 special? Like, you got a flavor of what's traditional, but then you also got a flavor of the founder. We're not looking to make this a huge extreme item of like, you've got all the details now, every avenue and every which way. It just is an opening for you to say, yes, I feel comfortable with having lunch or another meeting, a follow-up discussion around what you're working on and why. And so that's the start of the brainchild behind it. And where things started really catapulting, where I was reaching out to other investors and saying, okay, could this work in another territory? And those few investors that were there, actually at the first one, actually were like, Kent, take this to Seattle, take this to Chicago. I've got some connections for you. And that's where like I push the narrative to other startups of, it's okay to experiment and have the mindset of going to people you're interested in working with and saying, I'm running an experiment. Work with me here. Let's see what we can create. Those are the types of people that are gung-ho and ready to jump in and say, how can we make that happen? What would actually be beneficial? And that's where I got a lot of my data and research to catapult into the next phase. And the cool part about the first one, I actually gave the founders about a week in preparation with their bad business idea.
Okay.
Which is
that's
so
different than now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So big time. And again, we were just playing around with the experiment and what this could look like and why. And so we didn't really know what it was that we're grasping onto, other than the fact that we wanted to see more founder relationship on stage.
Okay.
And so this first time round, I had 5 different founders, all prepared a week in advance. They were given a bad idea from a spin wheel, so they didn't necessarily know what they were going to have to talk about. But that week period was just too long for them to really feel like you were getting raw information from them. And not raw information of the bad idea, but raw information of how they communicate or how they adapt, how they work without something scripted. And so that first one was great in the sense of it worked out some directives, but turned the page for us to dial in this notion of completely impromptu behavior. So now today we do idea on stage, and you only have 15 minutes to prepare the bad business idea. And that's a full pitch deck behavior. They're crafting and creating. Nobody's dictating how they should set that up or why they should set that up. We really want to see how they as a founder think and feel about the given topic, and can present that in a way that's going to be beneficial for the investors to look at.
Do they go more serious or funny, or is it just a mix?
It's such a mix. It's so fun. I've had humorous pitches on stage, and Pigeon messaging was one that I just was floored with.
Pigeon messaging?
Pigeon messaging.
Okay.
He killed it. We were all in stitches laughing. And yet at the same time, he was coming up with a way for privacy. You would want to use pigeon messaging instead of an encrypted message. You knew you could get a pigeon across the states in a secretive way, right?
Right.
So that was really entertaining. And then the opposite side, so funny, but then I had the opposite side, one that was filmed by CNBC here in Utah. The founder got up on stage and said, Kent, a crowd, I've got this topic, silent karaoke, which should be funny, should be kind of dumb, because we're all like kind of like going, okay, we've heard that this is coming up for the past 15 minutes. We're excited to see what this guy can do, right?
Right. Silent karaoke. Okay.
Silent karaoke. And he goes, I actually have to take this serious. I've got a family member that's deaf, and this is really near and dear to my heart. And it set the tone on a whole different level. I got a little nervous because usually these things are supposed to be entertaining and of value in that sense, right? Lighthearted.
That's really cool.
But what he did was so interesting. He actually had several people crying. I was teared up over it. And it was sitting on such a note that was so informative and so directive that he actually showed his talent as a founder. He was very an analytical individual, not so much the comedic type, which was really interesting because he could have played off the funny, which had just come on stage just before him. But because he went to his strength and played to that nature, it came off so incredibly well. And stepping right into his real pitch right after that, it just flowed and the audience was attentive and invested instead of just he tried to be funny. No, he tried to be himself, and that was the win.
Yeah, I could see that for two ways. Because, if you watch a comedy movie that's not funny, it's just a bad movie. But if you bring it to like drama and it let a little bit of funny, it actually would always be good. It's a lot easier to do to make sure it's serious. Yeah. To know that strength and weakness that you have, that's interesting.
It was such an eye-opening moment for the behavior of ShitPitch and what was being created. Because now it's a conversation prior to the event of saying, okay, Mr. Founder, Mrs. Founder, if you don't feel like you're funny, that's okay. If you feel like you're serious, please play into that strength. Be you in the scenario because we're trying to see you and how you work. Well, I'd much rather coming to this saying, or after this and saying, you need a co-founder that's a CRO mindset and put you in the COO position, right? Or the reverse of, gosh, you're all sales, but you have no real technical background. We can see that behavior in your pitch. That kind of momentum is critical for investors to understand and get a flavor early on.
Doing some research with StartupAnthology, 9 out of 10 startups fail. And also some of the research says that 23% of those fail due to team issues, and that breaks down even more. But one of those big things is lack of entrepreneurial vision, not for the entrepreneur, but with the team around them. Does seeing this help to allow the founder to communicate to their team a little bit better on their vision to make sure it's more captivating?
I wouldn't say this is an education or a training platform. This is an awareness platform, meaning, if they're struggling to communicate on stage and effectively run a case study example on stage and pull an audience in on an understanding of what's going on and leave them going, okay, I felt what it was you were trying to do, they're probably not going to be very good communicators in general. I say that with a little bit of an asterisk because everybody is different. Stage means scary to some people, and that's totally fine. But for those that can't effectively communicate even that aspect, like the individual that was serious and saying, hey, I'm going to take this different direction, and in giving a relationship to those around you, you're probably going to have a hard time communicating in general and accepting that you are human and that we're all trying to figure this out. And I think when founders go into that mindset with their own company and saying, hey, I'm human, but I really have this vision. I want you to join on with this cool experiment to see what we can make happen. Do you see how much more excitement you can get out of people and the driving factor behind that? Like it's huge.
Right. And the self-awareness, did they know that to be able to compensate for that difficulty if they have it?
I mean, we're all suffering from imposter syndrome, left and right. We all do, right? It's all about being okay with being vulnerable and the idea that things fail and that's all right. So long as you understand how to properly communicate that you're going to fix something or change something or need help in order to make that happen. I think that's really what we're trying to do, is show off that ability.
Take that ego out of it, I guess, is what you're,
Pride is such a tricky thing.
It definitely is. I want to touch back on something real quick. When you said you were going through the early stages, you wanted to try different areas. When I was at Tech Week, someone talked about the type of startup ecosystem on the coast is way different than it is in the central parts of the state. So like Austin, Denver is different than Silicon Valley versus New York. Have you noticed that as well, going around to these different areas within the United States at least?
New York was the most lively and interactive. I didn't have to push as hard as I did in Utah for audience engagement. I think it comes down to culture and just feeling comfortable in a room and understanding what's going on. Austin was also kind of a tricky room. It was receptive, but not as engaged as, like they were engaged, as I take that back. They just weren't as interactive as New York. New York was just phenomenal. I didn't have to say much and they were like heckling and getting involved and having fun and being okay with just being themselves. By the end of the day in each of these locations, everyone's feeling really comfortable. We've all gone through this weird experience that they go, okay, we're buddies now because we've gone through something together. Like we get it. So my assumption is next year coming back around that people feel a lot more engaged and a lot more comfortable to voice out is my assumption.
So is this your first season, I guess?
Yeah, first season. Started in March. Wow. It wasn't intended to be anything more than just a Utah thing, actually. Just like a one-off. So March happened. I had a few good people, about 30 people in the room. Nothing wild. It wasn't meant to have a large crowd at that first one, right? Really just trying to test this out. And there was a lot of good and bad. The good was that we started something. The bad was that week-long period of their engagement to craft behavior didn't give us the results that we really needed on a founder level of unscripted behavior. But the super win was I had one person that was impromptu for that event. I said, you're going to be my ultra experiment. You're going to come on stage, get the idea, and have 15 minutes to prepare for it.
Wow.
And that's what catapulted the next episode to switch the narrative. And then that next one, I actually had a founder I asked to do an anti-pitch, list out all the reasons why an investor shouldn't invest in them and present that. So at each one, I'm trying to push the narrative of we're experimenting, we're having fun, we're doing something different every time in order to really see what works and what doesn't. And it's okay for the ones that don't because we're having fun. We're being human and just listening to each other and
telling the stories and interacting and getting to know each other well. I was in the Navy, and one of my favorite things about being in the Navy were sea stories. In training, I was in nuclear power. They do all this math and physics and stuff like that. We were tired, and they're like, to energize, get us going again, the instructor would tell us a sea story. It was great just to be able to connect on that personal level beyond the classroom or the tech.
And getting real life experience insight right there.
Yeah.
But at the same point, like you bring up something really that's a treasure, which is that we're humans wanting to figure out life and have fun. And I think that's what yes, there's serious moments and there's serious times and they're not trying to skate around that behavior. But there are moments when we need to relax a little and breathe and go, okay, but let's actually look at something different. Maybe let's look at it upside down. I have one art professor that told me if you flip your painting upside down, even though it should be right side normal, you'll at least get a different perspective and realize that maybe there's some mistakes involved in what you were originally looking at.
That's profound a little bit, to see it differently.
Yeah.
Well, also I see if you started in March, it's really interesting that you're going to New Delhi next month. Yeah. How did that, is it called Lehigh, Utah?
Yeah. Lehigh, Utah. Yeah. Good job.
Lehigh, Utah to New Delhi, India in less than 8 months.
That one was a weird story. This was the second Utah event that I was hosting, and I had somebody register like normal, saying, hey, I'm interested and wanting, and I approve everybody that comes through. So I either approve or deny so that we make sure we have a clean room of founders and investors. Everyone else I kick out, right? And so looking through the list, I was like, oh, this person listed that they were from India. I'll reach out to them like I do for everyone, saying, hey, this is a localized event. Love the support, but is there somebody here that you'd rather have visit, or are you in town visit? That kind of thing, right?
Okay.
She responded within like seconds, which was kind of weird. I was like, seemed a little off there, but it was legit in the sense of actual information. I'm going, okay, she's answering my questions. Cool. Like nothing's weird.
Yeah.
Like in that sense, I don't feel catfished yet. We had a good, quick little dialogue on email to the point where I was like, okay, what is your real intent here? Let's jump on a phone call. In her email, she said that she was actually looking for something like this and was really disappointed that it wasn't virtual, because the culture in India has this very stiff, you know, super professional behavior and mindset where image is everything. And like you said, ego and pride is a huge factor. And I'm not trying to crush people, but I am trying to open up the mind, right? Flip the painting upside down behavior. And so we jumped on a phone call, and it just one thing after another of, oh, you've got an accelerator program out there. You know, the Google team, fantastic. Things slowly lined up of, this would be really interesting on a global side of things as an experiment. And my whole intent was like, you just have fun with it. Do it out there yourself. I'll give you all the resources you need as far as what's worked and what hasn't worked for me. Test it out and have some fun. And just recently had a phone call with the Accelerator Expert Dojo, an investor group out in LA. And team out there, we just got done talking about, instead of doing a single one-off in New Delhi, to postpone it until April and do a series of locations as they look to open up the entire India branch with Expert Dojo. They've asked me to be the lead and come and host at these different cities in India. And that literally has just happened. So the calendar will be shifted and changed here in a little bit to reflect that.
That's cool.
Doors open.
So this one in New Delhi is on the calendar right now. She's leading it. Are you going out there for this one? Or
I'm going to now go, which is wild. She's going to be paired with me and helping this whole thing get set up, as she's opened up countless doors. In New Delhi, it'll be hosted at Google HQ. Which will be huge and fantastic for that behavior. But then these other locations, we're just going to blitz out for like a week of different experiments and see what can happen, if this even makes sense.
That is super cool.
Yeah.
It's just crazy how things fall together sometimes. One of the things I've been looking into is risk tolerance and like what makes someone feel like it's okay to do something or not. And I think a lot of this, and I can see it here, is just like, even for you to me, I don't know how you found me. First of all, actually, how did you find who I was and send me that Instagram message? Like, were you just going through who was at Startup Week?
I was so excited about Austin that this is a new experiment. I went on the Instagrams and the TikTokies and started looking up influencer behavior and podcasts involved in the Austin market and saying, hey, what's going on in this world and why should I be involved? I started reaching out to individuals and saying, hey, I'm doing this event. You want to get involved? And that's where we kicked it off.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that makes me feel good, because my SEO and the way I'm doing it is working, because you were able to find me in Utah, which is great.
Yeah, I love it. Dude, yeah, you're doing something right.
I hope so. So have you worked in startups before? Have you been an employee within startups? And
yes, I've just recently jumped out of a startup actually in order to run this full time.
What startup was that, or what kind of startup was that? I don't, have to tell the name or whatever.
Sure. So it was an admin fintech SaaS solution. They're an admin for fund management and SPVs. So it was right in line with the world in which I was sitting in, and it was fantastic on the run and behavior. Company is great. A shameless plug, Harmonious Capital Admin. Great behavior of what they're creating and doing as an admin for fund managers and VCs, et cetera, that kind of thing. So really running the back end behavior. I was the director of sales and enjoyed it. And it actually was fantastic as we were going throughout the different cities and locations teamed up together, it really opened up some great doors and opportunities.
Oh, awesome. How long were you there? I guess, just about a year?
Just under, yeah.
Okay. Have you worked at any other ones, or is that just the only one?
So I've started my own, a couple of them. And then as far as working for them, that's the only one that I've worked for.
Okay, cool. From the working for them as perspective, did the culture change from the time you started to the time you're there? I don't know if a year is long enough to kind of feel that, if the team grew much at all.
Yeah, it changed drastically.
Did it really?
It really did. It got interesting as far as growth mindset when investor cash came in, right?
Yeah.
We were already on a trajectory, and then investor cash stepped in, and the mindset and shift was drastic. But there was also some, different things that were kind of placed in there that influenced some behaviors, meaning expectations from different investors that really changed the game. The behavior of getting things rolling was the same, consistent. The narrative from the investor point of view influenced certain directives.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't think there would be much of a culture change within just 12 months. But I guess with the exponential growth phases of companies, the influx of cash, it could change.
You talked about this earlier on the people side. People make everything and the intent behind it. The co-founder that actually, the reason why I jumped onto the company had left. And so that changed a huge personality shift and behavior out there. We're seeing the different personalities coming in that's reflecting the other co-founder. And so, just the feel and the culture and everything shifted drastic.
Okay.
Good and bad.
That's interesting. How many people were there when you started versus how many people were there when you left?
3, 4.
Okay.
4 people. And then when I left, we were at 10.
Oh, wow. So at least double, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's a big change. Anything that like the culture that you saw there, what you experienced, did any of that feed into the way you wanted to develop the culture within ShitPitch?
Ooh, yes.
Okay.
I like them. They love to put pricing and everything very transparently on their website instead of having to hunt for things.
Okay.
That was read loud and clear for me, and I love that aspect. I do the same thing for all my interactions with sponsors and et cetera. If you want to get involved, you get involved. Not, okay, let me go talk to this person or that person or walk through the narratives of how to negotiate price. Obviously, everybody's a little bit bespoke for as far as what their needs are. I really only crafted 2 directions for sponsorship, and it was different this year than it will be next year, meaning that time at Harmonious really helped me understand behaviorally what I should be doing. So for ShitPitch, I was doing one-off sponsors, a couple $1,000s per sponsor to help weigh out costs. Nothing too wild or crazy. But that one-off sponsorship really hurt my bandwidth, and also on the reverse side, the sponsor time and involvement, meaning it was very transactional.
Right.
So I'd be like, hey, give me my cash so that I can host this event, and then in the hopes that you get ROI because of it, or brand awareness.
Okay.
This coming year, it's actually completely switched. I'm only doing 8 sponsorship spots for a full year engagement for all 20 locations. So now I can have a real relationship with the sponsors and not have it be something of a simple transaction. No, we're working together throughout this entire course of the 20 locations with 60 founders presenting throughout the given year, and then some, and figuring out social media strategies, what works, what doesn't, having fun with different levels of engagement to actually have rapport and relationship. So that's a big game changer.
I like that, because not only are they sponsoring helping you to do it, but they're also have the skin of the game and want to help you get to it and help you out. So it kind of lowers your workload, I guess.
There's so many wins on this level. That startup I was working for really helped my mindset, flipping the script, flipping that painting upside down and looking at it again. Okay, all right. Yes, I could say I'm transparent, but am I really that transparent that I could just be straightforward? It's $5,000 for the large 8-seat sponsorship, or $500 for monthly branding only. That behavior has really opened up the narrative. So now we've got Dude Wipes that's supposed to be signing here this week, Bamboo HR, HubSpot's on board and signed, so et cetera. Like it's open up these catalysts of open doors of relationship instead of just transaction.
So have you had a mentor in your life, anyone that provides you with guidance and influence your career as you progress in your career?
Gosh, several. Do you want me to name names? What do you want?
Well, okay. So you've had several. How have they played a role in your career? What have they taught you and how have they guided you?
I've had some pretty amazing friendships and relationships in my life. The most recent ones, because the investment world is very new for me. The recent engagement in this investor world has only been a couple of years.
Okay.
It really hasn't been wild for as far as that engagement. So a lot of my relationships built have been throughout this course of just a couple of short years. And they've been all over life science, renewable energy, SaaS, fintech, et cetera. And now globally in that sense. But the people that really had made an impact were the individuals that I felt like I could say anything, not crass or rude, just anything in the sense of an idea and not feel like I was going to be judged or belittled for an idea in a conversation. So I have a fantastic friend in the life sciences world, very comfortable and confident in asking questions on why he would invest in certain companies and how he got into this world and why he wanted to do it in the first place. That one has been huge for just one-on-one like we sat down just the other week and just had a good heart-to-heart and conversation of my woes and ShitPitch and trying to figure out what's next for this behavior and setting it up right. And this could be beneficial for X, Y, and Z with investors. It was those ideas I was able to throw around and just say, I'm experimenting. What do you think? Does that even make sense? Once I'm done with my piece, obviously I flip the script and try and figure out how I can best help. But 9 times out of 10, he's always like, no, dude, I'm here for you. So is what it is. But there's so many influential people out there that I would not be where I am today and doing what we're doing without those people. Like it just wouldn't happen. We're creating a community of good individuals that just have heart.
Okay. Have any of them told you, no, that's not a good idea, don't do that? Have you had that?
Gosh, yeah.
Okay, good.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the must. What was it? Queen, where the band left, or he left the band. He just didn't feel the tug of war that is needed in order to be creative. You have to have people that say, trash idea. Not to say that isn't truly a bad idea, but it could be now that you look at it going, okay, it is a bad idea, but could it be better if I did something different with it?
But it's an inflection point to pivot, right? Yeah.
Or would it work with somebody else in the seat? Just because I come up with the idea doesn't mean that it will execute. Take the potato parcel. Have you heard of the potato parcel?
No, but I'm gonna have to look it up.
They went on Shark Tank. They have been invested in by Kevin O'Leary.
Really?
Back in, I think, 2014, 2015, something like that. Potato parcel.
Okay, I'm pulling it up.
And the guy who founded it, actually a duo, co-founders, now just founder, but their whole intent was to do the most bizarre thing, which I don't think most of us could pull off.
I've just looked at it. That's great.
Are you seeing it? You ready for this? You take a potato and somebody reaches out saying, hey, I want to send an anonymous letter or note to somebody else. Will you please write this note on there? And then what that individual does is he writes with a Sharpie on a potato, literally puts it in a bag and sends it off. That's the dumbest idea.
Yeah, Kevin O'Leary's face was on one as I pulled it up. I was just like, oh my gosh.
I mean, it takes the right person to execute. I think I could figure it out, but that's not my forte and direction. It takes the right individual to take the right idea. And not just a bad idea, but the right idea. And the timing and understanding the market and the behavior and willingness to explore. I think that's what this really means. And that's where these bad ideas really help set the tone of the whole thing, to say that it's okay that these are bad ideas. They actually might be good given the right individual in the seat.
Have you had any of these bad ideas become good ideas and have their own company start, or talks about something starting?
Some of them are just so outlandish. Like one was chewing gum that helps translate languages. Clearly things aren't for real, right, in life. But I mean, it could spark something as far as imagination into a different field. The pitching messaging guy, his wife pulled me aside after the event and was like, I am so glad this is over with. My husband has been thinking about this for the past week and keeps coming to me saying, it might actually work. Listen, it could work. So yeah, it's been fun.
So that leads me to a topic. You have a family, you're married with a couple kids, right? 2 boys.
Yeah.
How has the relationship in your family helped in your career and helped with ShitPitch? How's that work?
So I'll say 3 things that come to mind when you bring that up, because family is everything for me. Mm-hmm. I've got a 7-year-old and then a 3-month-old.
Okay.
Still fresh.
Yeah.
And everything that I do is derived for having us be a family. My wife is amazing and supportive in so much of this. I would not be able to do this if I did not have someone so caring and so just endearing. This is a startup. This isn't something where you turn off at 5 o'clock or start at 9. I'm up until the late hours.
7. Yeah.
Where I'm working with different relationships during the day and running code and everything else during night and getting the right people and engagement. So with that, that's number 1 is my wife and the supportive behavior. If I didn't have that aspect, this wouldn't work. It's tough. It is so tough to walk away and fly away from family for a week at a time and know that you're missing out on the little things. And so the third component of this is actually, I think it ties it together. It's not perfect, but it's a good thing that helps me. I hope it helps my boy. I tell him before I leave, is there anything that you want me to ask a founder or an innovator?
Okay.
9 times out of 10, it has something to do with Spider-Man. He loves Spider-Man. So he's going, Dad, if you could ask an inventor or a scientist if they know how to make spider webs, let's talk to that person. Like, cool. Okay, that's fun. And so now it gets him engaged when I come back around or when I'm there at the event saying, hey, don't forget, Dad, you told me you'd ask some people. Or afterwards he'll say, Dad, did you ask anybody? How did it turn out? What happened? That's the engagement where now it's like we're working as a family, not as just Dad's leaving and goodbye. It's still tough. That point 2, it's still tough. Mm-hmm. But at least it helps the narrative of getting us together as a family.
That's cool. I like that. Keep the work involved with your family and family involved with work and kind of tie them together. That's a really interesting take to that and asking what kind of questions you want me to ask that founder. I like that.
Yeah. And he continually reminds me that on that family point, I've got a naughty word in my business. It's so anytime I don't want a phone call and he's around, he runs up with his stern little face and going, listen, Dad.
Well, that happened here. My 11-year-old keeps coming up to me. I just tell my wife, I'm going to do the interview today. And I told him what it was. And he's like, you can't say that, Dad. You can't say that.
Good luck with the conversation.
It was great. So are you mentoring anybody, helping them out like your mentors have helped you?
I wouldn't say it's an official mentorship, but I do have some really cool people, founders that are tethered to me that I've been lucky enough to advise along the way.
Cool.
But I do have a couple board seats at some locations, but that's about it.
So with everything so far, what are the top 3 lessons you've learned in your career at the startup, at your previous jobs and doing ShitPitch? What are the top 3 things you've learned?
I would say the first thing that comes to mind is being okay with doors being opened. Not that I am distracted by shiny object. I'm a human, I can get distracted by shiny object. But being okay with the person from India having a conversation and just saying, what is it that you're up to? Tell me a little bit more. And being curious in that mindset instead of just closed-minded of, no, I've got my focus and that's it. And I can't talk to anybody else. My priorities are set and you're not in my wheelhouse. There has been so many interesting conversations that have happened throughout this last year of engaging with people that I didn't even think would make sense for the direct purpose of what I was crafting and creating, which then ended up opening up doors like Expert Dojo, UCLA, so many other companies and partnerships that had happened and good relationships because of just having a curious dialogue and just asking.
Is this a new lesson that you've learned, or have you been pretty open your whole life?
I feel like it's opened up more since being more vulnerable. I think you talked about pride and ego, and I think I've let myself be okay with being human the last year and a half or so. And this has really definitely opened up the conversation of going, I feel comfortable at least just asking what they're up to and why, and not just have it be focused around how do I look right now? What image am I portraying? I'm now flipping the script, which is maybe a signal of ignorance in this world still, and wanting to be curious about what it is that people are doing. So
I don't think it's ignorance. I think it's just that curiosity and caring type of thing is what I'm hearing.
I do genuinely want to know what's going on in the world. Inadvertently, my end goal matches that same tone though. If I was still at the fractional CFO world, I was curious, but I don't know if I was curious enough to dive into it. Whereas now I'm definitely more curious about what somebody's working on and why. The why part is the bigger component. Case in point, I had somebody, a founder, ask me what their thoughts were on the startup that they have. And they're really struggling and even talking about closing doors in the next couple of months. And if they didn't have progress, they're asking me, should I just close doors today? What do I do here? What's the motive behind all this? You probably already know. I'm just curious what it is that you're working on. Why? So I can better answer that question. His direct response was, I want to IPO with this. Well, okay, that's fantastic that you have that goal. What's going to make the reason for this being a success though? If it's purely on a basis of cash and pride, probably not going to work. If you would have told me that there was a passion in the community or the individuals you were working with, I probably would have said differently. I probably would have said, keep it going and open up a couple more doors. But with the response of, I just want this to IPO, and that's my goal, like, you can't control that narrative as much as you can control other narratives.
But it's interesting they got a startup going for that, because that would be something, starting a small business or a franchise or something that someone already has, here's the manual, go for it and do good. You need passion if you're going to do a startup and get to an IPO, because it's a lot of hard work. You got to have more than the money, more than the financial goal there too. 100%.
And I think building that community and resource is what's really going to make or break that behavior. If you have people that support, because just because you have the initiative doesn't mean that others are going to get on board or want to be tethered to you. You got to create the reason for wanting that success for everybody. I think a lot of people forget that the founder and CEO role has nothing to do with them. With the person, the CEO specifically, it's the vision that they have, right? Is that what you're saying? The company never has anything to do with the founder or CEO. Meaning, early on, yes, it does. But as soon as you bring on individuals on your team or resources or pulling in other communities, etc., it no longer becomes a focus on you as a founder or a CEO. It now becomes a people company, meaning you now are responsible to figure out how to benefit other people. And by doing that, I think you end up with a successful behavior, because now you're communicating and working through the objectives that they have and the problems that they need addressed in order to have success, not your problems. Okay. As I'm thinking about that, I think about the founders that are really tied to the company. Like, you can't talk about one without the other. No. Snip it. Because I'm thinking like Elon and Tesla, or Elon and SpaceX, or Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook. And you look at those big unicorns that happened, and it's the focus on the person, and the company's kind of secondary in the sense. Yeah, that's like true. But I still, like you mentioned, a couple of his brands, not just one singular, right? Well, that's true. Yeah. So his initiative is what? Advancement. And so now his advancement isn't singular to his individual behavior. It's how do we get to that point of advancement? Okay, that's true. I guess it's the view the culture, the media puts on him, and not necessarily him to the, I understand. Everybody's got to point a finger at problems and success at somebody, right? Right. Which it leads to that point. But I think that's where a lot of early stage founders forget that really you're crafting a business in order to sustain other people and the community, right? And build up that world. You're no longer, even though you get credit, you're no longer the reason for success, is what I'm trying to say. 9 times out of 10. You're the pivotal negotiator to help move things along and nudge people, but that should be the behavior, in my opinion.
Oh, that
But much like a therapist in a therapy session, the therapist is a founder CEO, right? Yes, you're recognized as the individual leading the discussion, but really the individual on the other side is the one making the work happen.
Yeah, they're just giving resources to the team, like doing the funding, keeping until they have revenue, until they have.
Yeah, there's behavior in that, 100%.
What's another lesson you've learned over your career? You said it's okay with having doors open. So what's the next one out of that?
I'd say doing it with a smile,
Okay.
being okay with having a good time. I think it's easy to get super serious and forget that we're human beings and want to enjoy life. And that's where this component came into the mix of saying, yeah, we want to have some fun with this. And so however you can do that, if comedy's not your thing, at least figure out a way that's just going to make you smile by doing something nice. So I think that's been a win for me.
And then you got a third one by chance?
I would say it's similar to the doors open, where it's taking a risk. I think a lot has to do with just being okay with not having perfection and just taking a chance and saying, could this work? What happens if I do this? This last event that I had in Utah, I never had judges before.
Okay.
And it was really engaging as far as the idea of having investors with backgrounds on stage, a panel of them, and engaging directly with the founders that are on stage. And I asked each one, like, take a risk with me. Let's do an experiment. Let's see what happens if we do this. And I actually stepped back as a host during most of it to just see how it would either succeed or flop, which then would give me a baseline of understanding to say, should X, Y, and Z happen next time? Or how would this be better in this different scenario where I am maybe more engaged with the situation? I didn't even tell them that that was my experiment, but it was that risk that I said, can you take a risk with me, a possibility of failure, basically, in order to see what an outcome could be? Like, let's experiment.
Well, this is the second experiment that you talked about. You had the first person who did the pitch within 15 minutes, and you're like, hey, do this experiment with me and see what happens. And then it's now with the panel. I could see it even a fourth lesson of just being willing to experiment and not being into the, this is my formula, this is my model, I'm going to do it over and over again, that's awesome. Is you're seeing your own development, you're pivoting from show to show, and that's really cool.
I'm trying to help founders. It's okay to not have something perfect today. We know that your product will be different tomorrow after certain ideas or thoughts come into play. So don't be so tied up with what you have,
right?
Because it's okay that your business shifts in different segments. And if it shifts in a different way that you weren't expecting, that's not your pride that's getting shot down. That's just you deciding, seeing evidence saying, oh, I did this analysis and this data point lead me over here. We should now experiment with what that means. Let's figure out how that works. And if I was so caught up on my mindset of stating, hey, my pride is here. I built something perfect. I can't change it. And now I've invested cash into this. I've gotten other people to invest cash into this. I won't change it at all. Those are usually the ones that fall flat in their face after a little while. And you find that they aren't public in talking about it because they got so caught up in this weird little cycle of, I built this with the exact intent to no change or shift, right? Those are the ones that hurt the most.
So I want to change it up a little bit in the conversation. I want to talk more about the employee side and the people that if you've come across them. How would an employee better think entrepreneurially about their career instead of just being responsive to the way the company goes? Like taking these things that you're talking about of being open, doing it with a smile and wanting to experiment. How do you think someone could do that with their career as a startup?
I think number one is you have to find the right team. We talked about mentorships earlier on. I think you have to find the right team that's willing and trusting enough in the honest conversations. Meaning if you can't find the owner that has the mindset of curiosity or willingness your meetings, I'm going to guess as an employee, sound like this. Hey team, I'd like for everybody to submit their ideas. A few people are laid off, or that's a stupid idea.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
That's an extreme.
That's an extreme, yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like the idea isn't actually taken into true conversation. Meaning,
right, it's just going through the motions of soliciting an idea and already know what I'm going to do. Okay.
Yeah. So my mom's in town visiting family since we have this 3-month-old. And she brought up something interesting. My dad, I guess, came to the table several accounts and would be like, all right, kids, there's 5 of us. All right, kids, we need ideas to make money. Give me your ideas, right? It's like, are we in the right mindset for soliciting information from other people in the first place? And on the other side, are you in the right space or safe space in order to give that idea? Because if you're not, that even just suggesting something new or being involved in conversation is going to be really limiting. And you'll find that a lot of the teams won't want to participate or contribute if they don't trust the individual at the helm.
Well, that's the biggest thing I've come across in research recently is psychological safety within these teams.
Yeah.
Because if you don't allow someone to give a bad idea without them fearing the response, you're not going to get any good ideas either. Everyone's going to be tempering what they're going to say and like, oh no, I'm going to get laughed at or fired or whatever.
And it goes back to why investors are so concerned with seeing the founder early on and understanding how they work, because the idea could be great, but if it's led by somebody that's not going to invoke great culture or communication or direction or understanding of curiosity, why would they invest?
Right.
Why would somebody want to give into that world? And so on the employee side, I would definitely suggest first look at who you're actually getting tethered to. People come and go in mid-management. Who is the head honcho that's leading it? Because everybody is playing the same game that individual sets on the top in order to achieve whatever their motives are. If that game is to fake it to make it, they're going to fake it to make it. If that game is to get engaged for curiosity's sake, they're going to get engaged. If that game is just pure money, that's going to be solely about pure money. Understanding how that individual works as a founder and asking for one-on-one time with founder would be huge. Or even just involved in investigatory onboarding call and saying, hey, tell me a little bit more about the founder. If I can't meet him or her, how do I get to know what type of person that I should be interacting with? What are they like? Tell me a little about them. Get curious about that, and that should help you decide what the right fit is for conversation leading into that.
You know, it's taking that curiosity and making sure it's not just applying to a job. You want to do your research. Because you're getting into a two-way relationship. You want to make sure that what they have is what you need and vice versa.
Early stage and later.
What advice would you give to your younger self now? Seeing your career, doing all the things that you've done so far, ShitPitch, what would you tell your younger self up until this point? Like, hey, do this, don't do that.
One of the points that you asked me to make was being curious. I didn't even know this was an option. I didn't even know that this could have been something that I could dive into and have fun with. Meaning just even the MC side of things. I didn't even know I enjoyed being on stage. This in March was my first time ever being on stage. And I enjoyed the heck out of it. So talk about experimentation and being curious about what could happen.
Wow.
So all of this is me just looking at it going, yeah, I wish I was more curious as an earlier child to ask more bold questions that people outside my own community, meaning my family and close-knit friends, and just wanting to discover what the world was like and made of. How do we gamify the behavior with each other in a positive way?
So I saw that you actually were a talk show host on Mustache Founders or what? So, but that was the first time on stage was the first time you emceed anything. Really?
Correct.
That's incredible. That's a big step.
It's huge.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I still don't know what I'm doing. I think that's where maybe the vulnerability comes from on my end, and the fact that I'm okay being up there with other founders, being just as vulnerable. And it probably gives that notion that it's okay, we're in this together, man. Like, we don't know how this is going to go, but we're all in this looking at how to be curious together.
Did anything from Mustache Founders, that talk show, help to get you on stage and MC a little bit?
Yeah, I started that because I got tired of seeing
goatees. You got tired of goatees? You got tired of goatees?
I was like, gosh, guys, come on. These pillars of justice too? No, it's just mustaches.
Pillars of justice.
I really enjoyed asking some of the companies I worked with, the founders, questions when I was working at a fractional CFO firm. Why don't I just put this on record and have conversations with them about what failed and flipped over into success? What was that pivotal item that actually really held you up, but then stopped you for a second to say, wait a second, if I just tweak it like this, we're golden. Those are the conversations I wanted.
Okay.
And yes, that sparked the thought of something else.
Yeah, I can definitely see the dovetail there between the spark and ShitPitch. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So what is the vision for the future for ShitPitch right now, other than just expanding in this new tour and going on? Do you have any, what's your 5-year goal with it?
So I'm talking to producers right now. The intent is to have 2 different worlds. This live event ecosystem that's happening like it is now on a global level, as well as that's being experimented within India and seeing how that works. You mentioned this on a state by state level in the US. Well, culturally, outside of, we don't know what this is going to feel like. So we're trying to see why and if it even works out there, right? But goal would be to be a global brand.
Okay.
Sideline to that, working with producers, I'm working with about 4 or 5 different producers right now. I can't remember now. And each of them are working on their own take of what a TV show could look like. The parallel between the two is to help feed each other and to work on something greater, to then have a fund in the center. Then I could actually make the investments myself and run as lead in that behavior. So,
Well, that actually leads me to a question. What is your business model? So you talked about sponsors earlier. How does your business model work?
Sponsors is the main behavior. So I'll only have 8 seats for the main title sponsors. I don't charge ticket seats. I don't do anything like that.
Okay.
Unless it's a very unique, specific event that costs a little bit more, that needs that push, or there's a narrative behind it for charity or something along those lines, right? But other than that, the intent is to open doors for those like me when I was young, so they can come in and be curious and ask questions. Getting investors and founders, I curate it specifically for those individuals. If you're a curious founder, by all means, and you're an employee and you want to get involved, just state curious founder. There's a checkbox there for you. You can come to the event and check it out. If you're looking to sell to other people, like a BD or a sales rep, I kick you out. Like that's you're clearly there for a different objective. But if you're there for the community and trying to figure out how to work with each other and make something great, or just be curious, that's what this venue's for. On the money side, I'm not trying to make money on that aspect, nor on the founder end of trying to take equity or anything. If you'd like to team up, I have been on boards and am on board member seats with equity. If that's of interest, happy to help. But I'm not asking that in correlation for anything other than the sponsorship roles.
Okay. That's awesome. I was just curious about that after we talked the first time. How does this work? You talk about the network and curious entrepreneurs to come out. The startup employees work 80 hours a week or more. They're in it 110% and don't necessarily have time for networking or connecting with other people within startups. What do you recommend people do to help that out? When I was working at one, I could barely have time to connect with my families. And then to go one step past that professionally, it was really tough.
Let me ask a couple questions around that, because I completely agree. I'm in the same boat, right? Time is only allotted so much for our lives. But a question over to you. If you had to go pee, are you going to let yourself go pee?
Yes. I mean, you have to, right?
Will the company fail if you go pee?
Depends on where you pee, though.
Like if you fly to a different country to go pee, or something like that. Okay, same for eating.
Yeah.
Is your company going to fail?
Yeah, you're right.
We make our own time directive on the goals and needs that we have in place. If your need is to not go to an event that's not focused for your intent, do not go. Do not go. But you will make time for those things that are critical for your success. And you should know as a founder what's going to be critical and what's not. Or bringing on AI solutions in order to offset certain behaviors. So now you just saved yourself, 10 minutes of writing notes after a phone call. You still have to validate, and you've got another 10 minutes or so of validation, but maybe you've saved certain blocks of behavior. What I would do with that is not kill yourself off with stating, oh, I've got X, Y, and Z now to fill in that space, but maybe give yourself a breather and a break in order to make that happen. I'm not perfect at this. Gosh, I am trash in every single way. I'm preaching too right now. Yeah. But only because I'm that mindset of like, oh, I've got time. I should do X, Y, and Z now that I've got that time. But I'm still the one responsible for making or not making that happen. Meaning, I'm the one in control of the narrative. If I decided to sit down and just breathe for a second, my decision, right? My direction. It will not change the world. It will not impact everything. Even if I postponed the most important phone call because I had to run to the doctor's office or because my daughter needed me to hold her for a moment, I bet you they would understand. Just saying, hey, I need to shift this meeting for a second, or give me another 30 minutes, and being respectful of somebody else's time and saying, hey, this is what I'm up against. Can you help me out? I think that would be a win.
Have you had many employees or entrepreneur curious come to events and make connections with other people?
Yeah. I don't know that I could say how things have turned out, but I've had several people come that are checking that box and saying they want to be involved in the room. I mean, okay, so heading back to that original thing about events, there was one that I was really excited about last night. It was going to be at 6 p.m.
Okay.
I've been around the clock all weekend, busting stuff out for my own business, and haven't been around my family. As much as I really wanted to go to that event, I actually chose to cancel and not go. I don't hold anything accountable or anything as far as like an issue if somebody needs to not come to an event or something along those lines. It's free for a reason.
Well, yes, I know that experientially because I scheduled and was going to go to the one here in Austin. And then like the day or two before, I was like, hey, I can't make it. I'm sorry. That was really cool. Just don't worry about it.
Who am I to say that you have different priorities or not? I didn't force you in any way. I think that's the point of me leaving it free, is so that you can dictate what's important and what's not. I still put really amazing people in the room regardless. I would love to add to it with insight and your ability, but it's your decision on how and what is priority. I can't line it up for everybody perfectly. That's life.
Well, I think the thing that surprised me the most was, let's have a conversation, let's talk, let's meet, and then let's do this podcast now. I mean, that's the cool part. I would think if I told somebody that, I probably wouldn't hear from them again because they move on to the next thing. But the fact that you followed up and we had a Google Meet, now we're doing the podcast, it was just, this is really cool. And I really appreciate that. That's, and I couldn't make it to the show. How can people connect with you and follow up and find you and learn more about ShitPitch?
You can find me on LinkedIn, easy enough. Kent Richeson. If you want to know more about ShitPitch and where we're heading to, schedule will be live for next year. Should be at the beginning of next month, January, like the first week of January, 2025. And
2025 already.
Yeah, I know. Wild, right? The first one probably won't be until late February, early March with schedules, but there will be 20 events is the plan. So quite a heavy stack, and then India and probably some other locations as well as a added bonus. So if you're curious about getting involved there, check out ShitPitch.com. So that's a win. That's fun.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. You had ShitPitch.com already.
Yeah. Talk about something cool. I looked it up originally and going, oh man, that's a bummer. ShitPitch.com is taken. And it wasn't even available. It wasn't even an option. There was no site to it or anything, but it just wasn't even an option. And then it popped up like 2 months later as like $60K or something like that. I'm like, come on, nobody's paying $60K for that. And a freak thing just a month ago, I was helping somebody else out with a domain and just having fun with ideas. While we were chatting, I typed in shitpitch.com and it was like $14.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, it's fine. I just bought it right then and there. I'm like, okay, that was a win. Somebody didn't renew on their end.
That was funny you say that. I just renewed all the StartupAnthology.com yesterday.
Oh, love
actually.
it. Actually, I will say on that point, heading back to employees, it's okay that you don't have a website. It's okay that you don't have stuff up and live and running. If you're looking to get into this entrepreneurial space from your 9-to-5 behavior, it's okay that you don't have everything perfect. I think the first big stage is, do you have a market for it? Do you have individuals today that would actually buy what it is that's the idea? Can you get that kind of involvement on a community level? Because if you can do that, you know that now you can take it to the next level. Just create a simple website, A/B testing, send that off for a marketing blitz, and then see what comes back on data for that. Now take that data and go to the next stage. If it didn't work out how you needed to, take a step back. You haven't wasted hardly any cash at that point. You haven't killed yourself off for an identity struggle of creating your own cycle of disparity of saying, I created this is perfect. I created it because it's my idea and I can't give it off to anybody. I've invested 40K now. I'm into it 60K. I have family involved. This weird cycle of now I'm stuck, right?
Yeah.
So early on discovery, easy plays, talk about what the community can and is needing in order to go to a next phase.
That's good advice. I'm writing that down too for me. So that's what I'm doing. Trying to figure out how to move to the next level. So
tricky.
And if it's a good idea, I don't know yet. I think it is, but I don't know how to yet. So that's the biggest thing.
Well, I'm all ears, man.
Thanks, Kent. This is really awesome.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. This has been a good time.
Yeah, this is great. Well, thanks again. And everyone needs to go. Oh, do you record shit pitches? Like, can you watch it on YouTube? Can you see what's going on? That's the one thing I wanted to ask. I forgot about that one.
So I've got them all recorded, except for like the first couple, because it wasn't intended to be anything more than what it was. But they'll be I'm updating the website and everything, so it will have details on that. And then setting up marketing right now so that we can send those videos out shortly. So right, not today. You've got a couple of videos on LinkedIn and to Instagram, but that's about it.
Okay. Yeah, I really want to watch the shark arms, like the full episode of that one. That looks incredible.
That one was oddly like hysterical. I wasn't so the show itself, them presenting is a win, but it's the questions afterwards from the audience that just drive it home. The people have such fun in questions. And then the way the founder responds is so engaging and so witty, and you've got to be on your feet for those. It's a blast.
Thanks, Kent. Thanks for being on. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate you.